Tripathi sir, dear participants, and on behalf of IEEE MNIT student branch, I Vivek Rajput take this privilege to welcome you all. I appreciate your presence in this webinar from the core of my heart. IEEE, the world's largest technical professional organization, was founded in 1884 with a mission to foster technological innovation for benefit of humanity. Today, in 160 countries, there are more than 80,000 student members. A student branch gives students the opportunity to meet and learn from fellow students and professionals in the field. IEEE student branch are established over 1,500 universities and colleges throughout the world. Student branch activities offers numerous educational, technical, and professional advantages to IEEE members through special projects, activities, meeting, tours, and field trips. IEEE MNIT is a vibrant student branch. Currently, we have 8 active societies and over 60 student members. Collaboration, inclusive excellence, and collective efforts made IEEE MNIT student branch to reach new heights in terms of events and number of student members. Dear participants, before we start, there are few instructions which you all need to follow during this webinar. You are advised to mute your microphone and also please turn off your video. If you have any query or question regarding the talk, you need to write it in the chat box of Webex. And after the completion of talk, Mr. Shashikant will address those questions in the time allotted for question answer session. Now, I would like to invite our volunteer, Mr. Kumar Mohit, to give brief introduction of Mr. Shashikant. Kumar Mohit.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to all of you. When it comes to startups, a general perception is that it needs to be in a developed country where all the resources are available. In fact, truth misses the point. Startups can begin anywhere, and it's often the countries with the greatest needs that present the biggest opportunities. In India, the Indian startup ecosystem has evolved dynamically over the last 2 decades. For understanding that to the best extent, today we have with us someone who has been part of this evolution up close. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce Mr. Sashikant R as today's speaker on the topic Startup Ecosystem. Mr. Sashikant's vast experience of more than 20 years with his stack of knowledge on business, technology and management, on-hand experience with the market giants and mentoring startups and B-School aspirants makes him the perfect man for today's session. Mr. Sashikant, having completed his undergraduation from MNNIT Allahabad and MBA from SP Jain Institute of Management and Research, joined as Senior Product Executive in Ramco Systems, which can only be said as the starting of a remarkable journey of success, still to reach its zenith. Following this, Sir has worked as Senior Executive for Siemens, Assistant Manager Marketing for Sopra Steria, Senior Vice President for Westcon Group, Senior Vice President for Inflow Technologies, Vice President for HCL Infosystems, to name a few. Sir, having worked as a business owner, consultant, mentor, teacher in A to Z venture consultancy, proved himself an expert in the field of startup, business and technology. Currently, Mr. Sashikant R is a board member where he has a strategic role in multiple startups, SMB, SME, not only in India, but in Europe and West Africa as well. His experience and achievements stand on the strong foundation of his skills in team management, business development, pre-sales, business strategy, strategic planning, cloud computing, and the list goes on. We could literally go all day mentioning his skills, which is a panoply worth inspiring. Now I would request Mr. Sashikant R to enlighten us with the presentation tonight. Sir, please have the mic. Thank you.
By Vivek as well as Mohit. Today I will talk about startup ecosystem, both from an entrepreneur perspective as well as from an employee perspective. Those who are keen on joining a startup as an employee, they will have some inputs from me. And those who want to kickstart their own startup or join some other startup as a co-founder, they will also have some valid inputs from me. And at the end of the session, I would request either Vivek or Mr. Tripathi to put in the questions, and then I will answer them one by one. And if some questions are not possible to be answered today because of shortage of time, then I can always reply to them on a mail to the MNR College. And for the information of all of you concerned, I finished my engineering in electrical in way back in '91, and after 29 years, this is the first opportunity of me addressing the MNR students. I was there in 2016 MNR Union, but that was more of a 5 minutes interaction, some panel discussion, but it was not a full-fledged discussion with anybody. So this is first time after 29 years I am talking to the. So I thank Mr. Tripathi once again, and so this there shows a gap from my side as well as from the college side in actually meeting up with potential entrepreneurs, potential vice presidents, potential CEOs from MNR, right? So it has taken 29 years for me to come back to college and address. So let's, without wasting much time, let's get into the startup ecosystem, and let's see what is that you can get input out from my presentation. Yeah. So if you look at the startup ecosystem, the entrepreneur is always the rock star. And why a rock star? I will just show you a video and then it'll be quite clear. So just watch this video and see how passionate the audience are. What is the talent of the rock musician? And this is Bryan Adams, way back in early 90s. One of his songs, The Summer of '69. You able to hear?
So, sir, actually, the video is not playing.
Video is not playing? Oh, I think
Yes, sir.
some was on. There could be a... Just 1 minute. We have a high-speed fiber here. Still, it causes an issue because of a lot of people around here. They access the internet. Father, mother, parents, children. Hello. Yes, sorry, I think there's some problem. The video is playing on my machine, but it's not coming across. Okay, so
Yes, sir.
what I was trying to say was because you have to be a rock star in a startup environment, whether you're an employee, more towards an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, then definitely you need to be a rock star. And why a rock star? Because you need to get the confidence of the employees. You need to bring out a product that is well accepted by the customers. You need to be well versed in different aspects of the startup ecosystem. You can't just be only on business or on technology or on finance. You need to be an all-rounder. So you need to be real rock star when you start a startup. Now, if you look at this slide, it talks about how what are the visible challenges, what are the visible opportunities, And it also talks about the invisible opportunities as well as the invisible challenges. We can take it either way. You can take it this rock as an opportunity. You can take this rock as a challenge also. But when it comes to a startup, you must be very clear. What are the visible challenges? What are the visible opportunities? What are the invisible challenges? And what are the invisible opportunities? You should be prepared for it. You may not know all of them, but you need to be prepared for it. And you should be ready to face those challenges and those opportunities. Only then you can take mileage out of this. Then coming to the next thing, see, as we are all facing the situation of a COVID-19 corona situation, right? Changes are happening all around us, and this is not new. This has been happening from a long term, many years. Changes are happening. And what Darwin has said, it is not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. The country that will be successful is the one who is able to respond to corona fast and are able to change themselves. And if changes are happening around, they need to change to adapt. Only then they'll be able to survive. So it's a very important lesson for all of us. Okay. Then coming to the next slide. If you look at this is one of the slides which is way back early in 2000 when IBM had given a direction as to how internet is going to, how the technologies are going to evolve, or the e-business is going to evolve. So the e-business is actually at a patented mark of IBM. And they had said at that time that initially in the early 80s or late 80s or early 90s, you had core line of business solution, right? Something like what you see here as a core LOB solution starting, and then it goes over to become the intranet, where you have departments within the company connected to each other. Then came extranet, where one company talked to another company, and finally today we are in the world where the complete internet has connected all the companies, all the consumers, all the B2B customers. So what IBM predicted, or what the consultants predicted way back in 2000 early, and that's the direction in which we are all taking forward, right? From a standalone solution to an intranet to an extranet, and then finally everything is connected on the internet. And then going forward, what will happen? Your device, every device in your house, your washing machine, your fridge, your air conditioning system, your cooler, your purifier, everything will be on the internet. And you are in another part of the country, you are in another part of the world, you will be able to control these things sitting wherever you are, either in the office or you're in your traveling, you'll be able to control. And that's what we are all seeing already happening, right? Okay. Now coming to the definition of a startup as per Wikipedia. So what Wikipedia says is a startup is a company, a project initiated by an entrepreneur to effectively develop and validate a scale-up business. And entrepreneurship refers to all new businesses, including self-employment and businesses that never intend to become registered. Startups refers to new businesses that intend to grow large beyond the solo form. Right? Startups face high uncertainty and high rates of failure. So this is what Wikipedia is. So I have summarized as, startup is a young company founded by one or more entrepreneurs to develop a unique product, and initially you might get funding from your family, and then finally it goes to a different stage. So startup is something where you have a unique, disruptive idea, and which will scale up its operation. That's what we call a startup. For example, a business in a training business is not a startup. It's just a small and medium business. Consulting business is not a startup. But if you're doing something which is going to be disruptive, going to make a difference, which is technology oriented, and which is going to scale up over the next 5, 10, 20 years, that's what is the actual definition of a startup. While the Indian government has defined startup as one not, less than 10 years old, having a technology background. So there's a lot of leeway from that side. But typical startup definition is one which is very disruptive, just like what you have seen with Amazon or Ola or Uber or Ohio Rooms. These are typical startups. Now, when are you ready to kickstart a startup? I think some of you are in your final year, some of you are in third year, second year, and first year. Right? So when are you ready to kickstart a startup? Yes, you are ready when you have a compelling idea, and you have some financial support to do proof of concept, to make minimum viable product, and probably in 6 months' time to 1 year time, you also will need a venture funding. So you will need a venture funding. And entrepreneurship readiness. Are you ready to be an entrepreneur? Are you ready to take the challenges? Do you have enough money at home, either funded by your father or your uncle or anybody, to sustain yourself for the next 2 years? That's what I mean by entrepreneurship readiness. and whether you're ready to kickstart your own business. And obviously, you will need an advisory ecosystem, like people like me, people like experts in their own field, experts in startups, expert who knows business. So you need their help because uh, uh, startup entrepreneur is a lone ranger. He gets lost, right, in the startup ecosystem, in the business. So he always needs somebody to guide him once in a while, right? So it's very important. And then coming to strategic business plan. So that is one of the very key things as we go forward. We'll discuss about strategic business plan. It's very important. Need to have this before you kickstart your startup. Then coming to the next thing is how to find out whether you have a startup idea. Now you're ready for a startup. Okay. The next is, do you have a startup idea? Yes. Now the idea has to be unique. Otherwise you won't be able to go and get the business in the market or get the attention of the market. Compelling. Yes. When people see your idea, they should be willing to pay for the services. They should be willing to pay for the product. They should be willing to pay for solution. Problem solving. Are you solving some customer problem? Are you solving some government issue? Are you solving some citizen issue? Or are you solving some technology problem? That's very important. Scalable. Will the business scale up in the next 2-3 years from 1 crore to 2 crores to 10 crores to 20 crores? Innovative. Something innovative. Revenue generating. See, at the end of the day, if you're not generating revenue, then you can't make money. Your employees can't make money. Your venture capitalists who are funding your business cannot make money. So it's very important that you generate revenue. And finally, monetizability. You might generate revenue, but you may not make profits out of it. So very important that you make profits. And job creation. Are you creating jobs for the company, for the jobs within the company, for the people, for the economy? Are you creating a job? So that's very important. Then your socio-economical, political, environmental, are they getting benefited by this anyway? And finally, it's value creation. Are you able to add value to the existing ecosystem? Are you able to create a value for the existing? So it is from, when I say startup, whether you have a startup idea, it's a ideation stage or idea sculpting or conceptualization. So here you're deciding what you need to do and how, what kind of impact it will make on the economy or on the society or on the people. Why do a startup idea validation? See, you have seen about the startup validation, right? Now, why do you have to do a startup? Why do you why do a startup idea validation? There's always a risk involved. Whatever business you take up, whatever venture you take up, so you need to know what are the risks involved in the business. Is the business scalable? Then whether there's a market acceptance or not. Well, people accept your price. Will psychologically people accept your product? For example, if a product is not ready for the market, there's no point in launching it. So that validation needs to be done. Financial and commercial viability. Will it become a revenue generating function? Will it become profitable? That's very important. Technical viability. Do you think it's possible to do this product? You might have it on paper, you might have a minimum viable product, but do you think you'll be able to scale this product for, let's say, millions of users? So for example, when Ola started, they would have expected around 100 users in the first month, probably 1,000 users in the 6 months. But at the end of 2-3 years, they're looking at lakhs and lakhs, millions of users, right? So is the product technically viable for this kind of a use? Then comes your socio-economic factor, is it ready for that? Legal roadblocks. Are there any legal roadblocks? For example, if you're going to have a bike ride, how can you take female riders, right? It's very important because their safety is important. If you're going to have female riders or, female co-riders or female drivers, you need to look at their safety. So legal roadblocks may be there. Government regulation might be there. For example, you may not be able to launch a food product without getting clearance from the food department, drug department. Okay? And personal capability. Do you have the resourcefulness to do this? That's very important, right? Whether you'll be able to liaise with people, whether you have the network. And then you need to look at the new players, existing players, competition, etc. Okay, how to do a startup idea validation? Now you've decided, we earlier realized why do a startup validation. Now I'm talking about how to do a startup validation. Then go to your family, relatives, neighbors, show your product to them, talk about your solutions, let them give the feedback. The more people you meet and the more people from different segments, college professors, your dean, your head of department, industry specialist, domain specialist, successful entrepreneurs, unsuccessful people. Because believe me, you can learn more from people who are unsuccessful because you will know where all they have failed, why they have failed, what is the reason which kept them from not being successful, right? Very important. Then end users, consumers, you have to do survey with them. You have to see sample market size, to do sample research. Then you can talk to business advisors, technology advisors, consultants, then obviously investors and incubation centers. So incubation centers are nothing but, it's attached to college, it's attached to startups. What do? Is they take an idea and then from that idea they evolve the startup. So those are incubation centers. You can take your idea to these incubation centers and check up. I'm sure MNREC has got incubation centers like that. Many colleges have incubation centers where idea is nurtured and then taken to the next level. So this is how you do a startup validation. Okay. Now coming to startup essentials. You have validated the idea and then what is essential for you to take the startup forward? You need to have a validated business idea, which you've already done in the last slide. You validated business idea. You need to have a validated business idea. You need to have a co-founder. See, a lot of people kickstart the startup with one founder. I wouldn't advise that. It was very dangerous to have one founder because you will find it extremely difficult to get a funding. Maybe there are a lot of startups where there has been only one founder, but maybe they are lucky to get investment. But as an investor, they will always see whether there's a backup to the original co-founder, because something happens to one co-founder, what happens to business? The business comes crashing. That no investor or no company would like that, right? So it's very important to have a co-founder. And it's also important to have strategic advisory board because you will not have expertise. You will not be specialized in a lot of things. You need to have a chartered accountant. You need to have a legal advisor. You need to have a strategic business advisor. So it's very important. And the most important thing, the strategic business plan, which is the holy grail for success. And I hope you all understand what is holy grail. Holy grail is like Bible, right? It's like Quran, it's like the Bhagavad Gita, which will exactly tell you how to do, what to do, when to do. It's very important that you have a strategic business plan with you so that you can go back and refer to that every week, every fortnight, every month, every quarter as your business progresses. And you need to have funding, you need to have money, and funding not only for the startup, funding to manage your expenses for the next 2 to 3 years. So I wouldn't recommend anybody to get into a startup until they have some money to fund. For example, your girlfriend's father or your uncle is willing to fund you, then start a startup. But if there's nobody to fund you and you don't have money in a bank account, my advice is not to do it. Keep your startup at a nascent stage, then take it to the next level once you have worked for 2 years, got some money in bank and ready to fund. Because once you start your startup, you need money to eat food, to buy your basic clothing, and also to spend money on technology or whatever basic infrastructure you need. And going forward, startup means technology, technology means startup. I'm sure most of the people who are into chemical or who are into, let's say, chemical engineering or let's say production engineering or a mechanical engineering may not be looking at technology the way a computer science guy looks at or a IT guy looks at or a MCA guy. Technology is more towards, yeah, they have mechanical technology or chemical technology, but not the underlying technology which brings everything together. That underlying technology is nothing but your IT, software, hardware, and systems, right? Solutions. That's very important for any. You can't ignore. Because today, a startup without technology, I am able to talk to you because of Cisco technology. I'm able to talk to you because I have a Dell laptop. I'm able to talk to you because I've got an iPhone with me, right? So without technology, you can't communicate, you can't interact. So technology is very, very important when you start a startup. And finally, somewhere down the line, you will need to have alliances with other companies. You will need to have alliances with other people. You need to have a network of people with whom you can reach back, get funding, get technology, get products for your startup. And obviously, you need partners also. Okay. Then coming to startup technologies. So I was talking about technologies, right? So what are the technologies that are getting evolved in and around the startup? So we have the SMAC and the SSI. SMAC is nothing but social, mobile analytics, and cloud computing. And SSI is storage, security, Internet of Things, and automation. Maybe I'm sure most of the electronics, computer science, and MCA guys might know most of these technology, but then people from mechanical or electrical may not know all of these technology. But it's very important that you should know these technologies because most of the startups have something to do with one of these technologies. I can keep talking about these technologies Each of these technology is a 1 hour, 2 hour presentation. So I'm not getting into details of this. So if anybody is interested, can always reach out to me, or you can do a Google search. You can find out what is there, and it's very important that you should know about these 8 technology, which acts as a fulcrum or as a binding force which into a startup. Right? Not every technology is used in all the startups, but most of the startups embrace most of these technologies. That's what I wanted to cover. Okay. Now, what are the startup segments that we are talking about? Yeah, I mean, I can keep talking about this for a long time. There's so many segments, but something which has come to my mind, which I've seen a lot of potential: healthcare, you have pharma, you have biotechnology, you have telemedicine. Then social impact or social organization, you have hotel or products, and then you have fintech, financial technology, which is basically a cryptocurrency and blockchain, right? And then you have IT products, which is robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, hardware devices, software applications, and quantum computing. That's in IT. And then comes nanotechnology, robotics, and drones. Believe me, all of these segments have got its own mission. Which segment that you need to decide? I'll also tell you how you to decide based on your competency, etc. There's another slide for that. But these are the various industry segments where, and this is not exhaustive, right? There's some more beyond this, but I thought I should bring to you some of the critical ones, some of the good ones, which I've seen in my last 5 years of association with startups and small and. Okay, now is a startup career right for you? Okay, are you getting into entrepreneurship or are you getting into an employee? But in both the cases, whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, it's very important to decide whether the startup career is right. Because if you are not designed, if you are not drafted, or if you are not built for a startup career, then you should not go. That's my sincere recommendation, because life is very tough, very difficult, very challenging, very nurturing. Okay? It's all there. Grass looks very green from the other side, but it's not so green. But at the same time, going forward, it's going to be the world of startups. Big companies like Google, Microsoft, IBM, HP, they've all reached their peak. They will grow, but they will not grow at 30-40%. Startups is where the future of India lies, future of world lies, future of US. Everybody, future is on the startup. That's very important. Why you all, most of you guys will land up in a startup, and that's what I sincerely wish, hope, and that's what is going to happen. Some of you will still continue in the traditional industry, traditional mechanical industry or IT industry, but most of you will have to build your career in startup, because that's where the opportunity is going to be. I think this video you should be able to see it. You're able to see the video, but I think the audio is not coming. Hello. So in this, so if you look at this video, I'm sorry it has not been very clear, but what it basically says how a cat and a mouse come together to stop the thieves from robbing their house. Sorry about the video. I will. Okay. So, what are the pros and cons of a startup career? First, let's discuss the pros. Job satisfaction. There'll be good amount of job satisfaction when you work in a startup, and I've seen that in the last 5 years. latest technology and constant learning, and it's a key industry driving force. As I told you already, it's a key industry driving force. Obviously, salary range is going to be anywhere between low to medium to high. So there are startups offering lower salary, there are startups offering very high salary depending on what stage they are, and product catering to almost every other industry. And definitely startups are witnessing a very high growth rate, and you have multiple career options, and definitely a fast track career, because in startup you will be able to grow up to a general manager or a VP or probably to a CEO much faster level than probably in a traditional industry. Okay. Now coming to cons, what are the cons of joining a startup? High pressure and high stress. You will be responsible for your own startup as an entrepreneur, or probably you'll be working in a startup where there'll be high pressure. You might have to put in 14, 18 hours of a job every day. Job risk is very high. Startup can close down anytime. Your business can wind up anytime because of government regulation or any unforeseen thing. It can happen. I mean, if you're not foreseen probable risk, it can happen. Then a lot of travel is involved. You might have to travel across the country to increase your business. Okay. Then coming to technology phase off. Very important that you keep abreast of technology. And if you don't keep abreast of technology, then your startup can get crashed if the technology is not able to match with the requirement of the market. These are some of the cons of startup career. Now, what are the roles that are available for a startup? So typically, okay, here I'm mostly addressing the career option rather than the entrepreneur option. But from entrepreneur perspective, you should also know that what are the various roles that you need to hire for as you grow up. So when you start off, you might be doing all the roles on the left-hand side, but then over a period of time, you might have to hire people to do. So if you see some startups, they outsource the human resources, the finance, the purchase, the admin, quality, logistics, operations, and legal. Whereas the one on the left side, the sales, business development, products, marketing alliances, media, projects and services, technology, production and manufacturing, IT. So these are very critical and core and mission critical for the startup. So these on the left-hand side should never be outsourced. That will be in-house in the startup. So most of you guys might land up with a role on the left side, or you might land up on the role on the right. These are some of the roles that will be available in a startup. Okay, now what kind of skill sets do you need if you want to join a startup, whether it's an entrepreneur, whether you will become an entrepreneur or whether you will become an employee, right, in a startup? Domain knowledge is very important. If it is healthcare, if it is pharma, if it is biotechnology, if it is robotics, you should know about robotics, yeah, drones, etc. Similarly, if you're going to do a business, you need to have some amount of business acumen. It's not enough that you have a technical acumen, you must have some business acumen, which over a period of time you will learn, but it's very important that you have this business acumen over a period. Then understanding update of latest technology, building relationship with people around you, customers, vendors, partners, venture capitalists, investors, angel investors, seed investors. Then understanding of competition is very important. What competition is doing, how they are doing it, what is their advantage, what is their disadvantage. Technical acumen. I'm not saying that you need to start doing coding or you need to know about it, but you should have a fair idea, because otherwise, your partners or your technology providers can take advantage of you if you're not technically capable of understanding their solutions. It's very important. Technical acumen is important. Process knowledge. If you're in healthcare, you should know about the process in the healthcare. If you're in robotics, or if you're in, let's say, chip manufacturing or nanotechnology, you must understand what are the processes involved in nanotechnology. So that's very important. And finally, business process was the IT mapping. Because if you're not able to automate your process, you will not be able to scale up your startup. So it's very important that you should know how to convert your business process into a automated system. So the last role is one very, very critical in a skill set. Okay, now what are the key success factors for an entrepreneur and for an employee? So the one on the left side is more from an entrepreneur perspective, and the one on the right side is more from a employee who starts off at a very lower level, right? So your willingness to learn, your drive, compassion, fire in the belly, positive attitude. You always be thinking positive about your role, team spirit, working with other people. It's very important. So these 5 characteristics I put on the right side, very important from an employee perspective, from from a person who's starting a career as an employee in a startup. Now, coming to a co-founder or an entrepreneur, you need to have vision of future. I know it's very difficult to have this, but over a period of time, you need to have. Otherwise, you will not be able to be successful in your startup. Scalability. You should be able to scale your business. Stability. You should have a stable idea. You should have a stable focus. Because you can't keep changing your idea every time. It's important to fine-tune your idea, but you can't jump from one idea to another because you will not be successful. Similarly, value add. Whatever you do, you should be able to value add to the ecosystem. And focus is important, right? You should put your full focus into one thing you are doing and then try and achieve success in that. So focus is very, very important. Finally, people management. You should be able to add people as co-founders to you. You should be able to bring people towards your company. That's very important. Without that, you won't be able to attract people to your startup which you are heading, right? So how do you opt for a startup then? So some of the deciding factors, do you have interest and ambition? So I was telling, right? Some of you will go for traditional companies, some of you will go for startup, some of you will go for a startup as an entrepreneur, which means you start your own company probably even before leaving M&M. So what is the deciding factor? One, interest and ambition. So whatever you do, you should have interest for it and you should have an ambition to do that. Growth prospects. So do you see a growth in that whatever idea that you've taken up? And competency. You should have some competency, either business competency or technical competency. Skill sets. As I mentioned, some of those skill sets, business process mapping, technical acumen, those skill sets you should be able to develop before you do. Experience, obviously, some experience. I would recommend that at least people work for a couple of years, understand a company before you actually get into start your own startup. And similarly, before you join a startup, it's important that you work in a small, mid-sized industry for some time and then try. So that can be there are so many people who join startup as a trainee and all that. It's okay, but experience is one of the deciding factors which you will decide before you get into a startup. Salary and location are important, but I wouldn't suggest that you base your ideas on salary and location, because as long as you're able to flexible on salary, you're flexible on location, believe me, at the end of the day, you will grow, you will finally achieve your objective. But if you're purely commercial oriented, salary oriented, and you are very clear that you want to work only in a particular location, then you may not be very successful in life. Very important that you work across the country, work in any location, and probably work at a slightly lower salary to start with. Don't say no to any opportunity just because of salary, as long as that experience is valid, as long as the role is very, very interesting. Now, what are the challenges that you will see in a startup, right? See, the idea has to be very disruptive, differentiated, and innovative. Otherwise, you will not be able to survive in a startup. There are people who comes with me too ideas, same idea as somebody else, but success will be very, very less likely in that. You need to have a right team. Very difficult to get a right team, right co-founders who will gel with you, who will match your thoughts, will be compatible with you, right? They need to be competent, they need to be compatible with you. So both getting these two is very difficult, not easy. And technology access. Will you have access to technology? Will you have people who knows how to access technology? Those are some of the challenges. Market readiness. Is the product ready for your market? Is the customer ready for the market? Consumer ready for the market? That's very important. Finally, requisite funding. Getting an angel investor. If you have a uncle or a father or a friend's father who is willing to fund your startup, you're very lucky. Otherwise, people are struggling to get funding. Very few startups get funded and then they fizzle down over 2-3 years. See, I'm not telling all this to discourage you or give a bad no. I want to tell you is there are challenges. It is not a bed of roses. It is a bed of roses as well as bed of thorns. You need to be prepared for this before you. So that's my duty to tell you that these are the challenges. So the entrepreneur wave in India has already started. We're going to see a lot of SOHOs, small and medium business, small and medium enterprises. Some will succeed, some will sustain, some will stagnate, some will shut down. But we're definitely going to witness the creation of a lot of products, solutions, offerings, jobs in the market, and that's going to happen. Nobody can stop the entrepreneur, right? So every morning in Africa, when the sun rises, a deer awakens knowing it has to outrun the fastest lion or be hunted to death. But when the sun rises, a lion also awakens, knowing it has to outrun the slowest deer or be starved to death. Doesn't matter whether you are a deer or a lion. Sun rises, better be running at your best. So I'll show you a video where, a kid, just observe the kid. Sorry if the audio is not coming through. So if you look at the child is digging the ground, right? He's put the car into the garden and he's trying to water them. He's watering that. And look at where is he looking. So that was Mercedes-Benz ad. So thank you very much for your patience. And what I want to tell you from that video is it's very important that you have a vision of your future. Nurture your product, nurture your startup, nurture your career, just like that kid does in terms of building the car, right? At the end of the day, definitely you'll meet with the success. But if you don't nurture and you're expecting Mercedes-Benz to come to you in the first 1 year, 2 year, or 4 year period, it's not going to happen. Maybe one out of 500 students or 800 students, one might be lucky enough to buy a Mercedes-Benz in the first 3 years. But not everybody can make that. It's very important that you nurture your career, nurture your startup, nurture your goal, so that at the end of the day you get a success. So, nice talking to all of you, and I hope to hear some questions which I can address.
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Sir, in your second slide, I think in second slide you have talked about internet, and you gave an example of Dubai. So in India, particularly in India, how we can handle the digital divide available in India, because in India most of the startups are app based, mobile app based. So how one can handle that diversity available in India?
Okay, so you are asking from government perspective or from a startup perspective?
Sir, startup perspective.
Okay. See, currently with Jio coming in and BSNL, I'm not sure about the BSNL connectivity, but with the Jio coming in, the entire India is going to be connected on the fiber. Just a matter of time when the nook and corner of the villages will come onto the. So yes, there is a digital divide. It's very difficult to overcome that, but you can't avoid it. In the sense, every farmer needs to come onto the platform. Every engineer needs to be on the platform. Every village needs to be on the platform. So now, how it will happen, when it will happen, I cannot guarantee, because it all depends on how fast Reliance is able to capture the entire village connectivity. But believe me, if you have seen the announcement from Kerala, and there's one example, the entire Kerala, as per the government, I have not actually verified, so I cannot tell that, but I also come from Kerala. The entire public school is digitally connected in Kerala, and which is a very, very great aspect. Even I am assuming, they're saying it's under 100%. Let's assume even it is 80%. It's a great achievement, because the public schools in Kerala, if they are connected digitally, then it's just a matter of time the other states have to follow. It all depends on the state policies. It depends on the state government. Obviously, companies like BSNL and Prime have a lot of role to play in terms of building up their digital connectivity. And today, with the app being language neutral, for example, Google can be in Hindi, Google can be in Tamil, Google can be in Malayalam, Google can be in Telugu, Google can be in Gujarati, right? So that digital divide you won't see. So a farmer who logs into an app will see Hindi or Telugu or Malayalam. He does not need to know English. So the digital divide is more in terms of the bandwidth of the mobile connectivity. Most of the farmers are mobile. Most of the villages will be connected on mobile. So I don't foresee digital connectivity as a problem. It is only a question of whether BSNL or Jio, Reliance Jio, who is able to reach out to that last village in the last part of India. Once that happens, your digital divide will get over, and people, and it's not necessary that you need to know computers to be on the platform. I mean, not everybody is computer literate. You must just know how to use a smartphone. And I'm sure in the next 4-5 years, there will come a phone which will be so smart and artificially evolved that a farmer can use it without learning about it. See, today you need to know about iPhone settings. See, I'm not able to figure out why the audio is not coming out to a short of time. But if I had time, I would have sorted out. I'm a technology guy, right? I'm sure some setting in the, I'm new to Cisco Web Hub. Normally I do on Team, or I do on Zoom, or I do on Google. So Cisco is new to me. So maybe somewhere I did a wrong setting. That is the reason. Now a farmer cannot afford to have this technology around it. There will evolve a system like Ola or Uber where you don't need to know technology. So it's only a matter of time where this digital divide will take over, maybe 5 years, 8 years down the line. So be prepared, and there's always groundwork. And I'm not sure. This is my intuition, my gut feeling. My intuition says one day the government will make it Wi-Fi free. Maybe. See, I'm not a policy, I'm not an IAS officer or a policy maker, but I somehow feel one day they'll make the Wi-Fi free or so affordable that any farmer can log in, and the phone will be so user friendly that he need not know technology to access what is the condition of the, when it's going to rain, what will be the crop, what will be the crop condition, when he has to harvest the crops. Everything will be at his fingertips. That's my reply. I'm very optimistic. I mean, and I've seen this happening, right? I mean, when I passed out of MNREC in '91, we didn't have a computer in our. I mean, we had computer lab, but we didn't have laptop. And when I joined the Siemens way back in '91, I didn't have a computer, and only after 4-5 years I got a computer. Laptop I got much in 2003. I got my laptop, and my smartphone I got around 2005. Now today my daughter uses a smartphone from the day she was born. Right? So that's the difference. Next question.
It's very true, sir, and I will support your answer actually, because in near future I think what I can foresee that farmer would be able to switch on his phone or some sort of system in the same manner they used to do, switch on a radio, and every information, his crop and all those things would come before him in the form of audio or in form of some video or in form of both audio visual information.
Exactly. And today, what is the drawback of a smartphone? If you ask me, there's only one drawback, that is your charge. Now imagine tomorrow if somebody from MNREC Allahabad comes up with a technology which can convert air into charge for the phone, then you don't need battery. I mean, you don't need a battery, you don't need a charger. You need a battery which can take air and then convert that into a charge and make the phone working. And a farmer can operate the phone without a battery backup, without plugging into a mains, without plugging into electricity. You can do. Believe me. See, I don't want to name the college because I mean.
Yes.
Okay, let me.
But technology will come.
Yeah.
Definitely.
For example,
will...
yeah. For example, I had the opportunity to visit one of the R&D labs of one of the colleges nearby Delhi, and there one of the student in first or second year, I don't remember, mechanical, he has found out a new motorbike. See, it is getting patented and it's confidential, so I can't give you the details, but I can tell you it's a new type of a diesel bike the guy has found, and I was so amazed. And complete prototype was in the lab when I went there, and I was like, oh man, an engineering student from India, and that too from close by to and not from IIT or NIT. And it's a good college. I mean, nothing against the college, but it's not from NIT or IIT. Can come up with a technology which is getting patented, which is totally a new type of a diesel bike, or I would say organic bike, organic fuel bike, something like that, right? I can't give you full details. So I'm sure somebody from MNREC can come up with a technology which can charge, convert air into charge. Possible, right? So next question, please.
Sir, as you talked about patents, sir, I have one question. Suppose I have an idea about startup, and to protect that idea, do I need to file a patent for that? So,
See, okay.
yes.
Before you, for example, you have an idea. Your idea cannot become patented. Okay, what can become patented is this framework or a solution or a program. For example, if you have written a program that is very unique, nobody has written, and the output is also unique. Is that the process of your invention, or process of your product, and the final product, both are unique. Then you can patent. So this is very crude way of, I'm not getting into legal aspect of patenting, but a very crude way of telling is, if your idea and the process to get that idea both are unique, then you can patent. Okay, which means you need to have a minimum viable product in your hand. Only then you can patent. You can't patent idea. So for example, converting air into charge, you need to have a working product, and once you establish that product, then you can patent it. Now Shashikant can't patent the idea that, okay, I have got an idea, I can convert air into battery, battery charge. No, I can't patent that. But let's say I've created a charging mechanism which sucks air into the phone and converts that into a charge which will give 5 volts or whatever volts that 12 volts or whatever volts that cell phone or smartphone or the laptop needs. Then that idea, that cellular technology, that battery technology or that charging technology, that becomes a patent, and that immediately you have to patent through either an auditing firm, CA firm, or through a legal. And please approach a very trustworthy, through your uncle or aunt or father or your friend's father or father's friend. You go through a known person, go to a CA firm or a legal firm who is well versed in patenting. They will patent it for you, because once you patent the idea, then everybody will have to buy the technology from you. But idea can't be patented. It has to be a product. Similarly, your software program can't be patented. A subroutine, a particular route, if you have developed an algorithm, that can be patented. You can't overall, write a program and then patent it. Not possible. Algorithm, artificial intelligence algorithm can be patented if nobody else has done it. Yeah, I hope I have addressed your question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question. What kind of person makes a successful entrepreneur? Hello.
Yeah, I think I've addressed that in my. I'll show you that. So these 10 factors are responsible for the success of a startup. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So these 10 factors you need. The 5 factors on the left if you're going to be an entrepreneur, 5 factors on the right if you're going to be an employee. But an entrepreneur, obviously, he needs both. The entrepreneur needs the factors on the right side as well as on the left side. Whereas a startup employee, somebody is joining a startup as an employee, he needs the 5 things on the right side.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Next question, please.
Sir, there is one more question asked by one of our participants, and
Yeah.
he is asking how to find an investor at different stages of like initial stage of an startup.
Okay. How to find that also as
Investors.
So here I've said the last point as investor incubation center, right? Now, any of this can be an investor. Now, how do you find these investors? Bit of luck and lot of networking, which means you have to network with your college mates, your seniors, with your juniors, with your professors, with your neighbors, with your relatives, with your father's friends, with your mother's friends, with your uncles, with your girlfriend's contacts, everybody. You can't leave anybody aside. You have to network. LinkedIn is one of the sources, but believe me, finding an investor is not very easy. If you're able to get it, you're very lucky. But I know a lot of people who have made 10, 20, 30, 40 presentations and still not got a funding for their investment. So if you ask me, the game is you have to go out, network. Obviously, the idea has to be disruptive. If you don't have a disruptive idea, nobody is going to fund your program. Then you have to take some bank loans, take some risk from your side, put some property or mortgage, and then do it. But that's for a small business. But if you look at a big business like Ola or Oyo or Uber, then you better find an investor, and to find an investor, you better have a disruptive or a differentiated idea. Now, what is the difference between a disruptive idea is something which nobody has thought of. Differentiated idea is something similar but different from what somebody else is already doing, right? And innovative is something new way of doing it. It may not be differentiated, but slightly a new way of dealing with things. Ola is more innovative than Uber. Right? That's what I feel. So, right? Personally, I feel. Similarly, I feel Amazon is more innovative than Walmart. So, getting an investor, yes, it's the most difficult part in a startup. But if you are disruptive, you will definitely get us. But there's no substitute for. I mean, the only way you can do it, networking. I hope I have answered your question.
Okay, sir. Sir, there is one more question, which is as compared to world, where we India stands in terms of startups, or we can say incubation of startups. Do our government giving any support to startups?
Yeah, there is MSME program, there is startup funding initiative program, there is a tax, what do you call, if you are in certain startups, you'll get advantage of start. For example, 17% is the tax for startups, whereas 25% is the startup for the other small and medium enterprises, established enterprises, 25%. So you have tax leeway, but then this will keep changing and it will keep evolving. So definitely there's a lot of initiatives from government, but if you ask me very frankly, you should not be dependent on the government to build your startup. Yeah, that's for example, I mean, it is like telling you should not depend on government programs to join MNIT. You should join MNIT with your own merit, with your own skill sets, etc. Right? And then take government support for scholarship, government support for funding. That's it. Okay, but should not take government support as the primary thing to run your business. Then your business will not be able to survive because government will only support to some extent. Obviously, government has its own, policies. They'll have some preconditions. You get limited by that, right? So it's important that you take advantage of government, but do not make a startup that purely depend on government, because tomorrow, for some reason, the government policy changes, then you will be in a lot of trouble. So build a startup which is not entirely dependent on the government policy, which can change. So that's very important. You should remember. Like for example, if you are a middleman in a food chain, tomorrow if government abolishes the middleman, from between farmer and between the produce and the factory, then your business is at risk, right? Like for example, because of COVID, the tourism and the hotel industry has literally become bankrupt over the last 7 months. So, good. There are a lot of initiatives from government in terms of MSME, in terms of, for example, for women entrepreneurs, there's a loan from the government. There's a tax holiday. There is you set up an export-oriented unit, then you may not have to pay tax. You'll also pay. You can also get refund from GST in certain aspects. Your input GST can get refunded in certain aspects. If you're in an export-oriented unit, there are a lot of benefits. So different benefits from different governments will keep coming. So that only thing is, before you start, it's important that you check up with the appropriate chartered accountant as to, if I'm going to start this industry, what are the government benefits? Will I be totally dependent on that, or I can take some advantage of it and then go ahead with it? So it's very important that you contact a chartered accountant to understand this government benefits, because these keep changing every quarter and new things keep coming up. Right? So not everybody will be updated on this. So you might read the paper and then take a call. No, there are government websites where it's updated, but my opinion is always better to take a chartered accountant opinion. So they are the ones who read the government norms and laws every day. So they will be able to tell you whether you're going in the right path or not. But yes, Indian government is very helpful, coming up with a lot of startup initiatives, coming up with a lot of incentives for women entrepreneurs, for entrepreneurs in social impact. So there are a lot of progress. So it all depends on which area you want to start. Yeah, next.
Sir, the first part of the question was as compared to world, where we stand in terms of startup. So
in my knowledge, reading and talking to people from abroad, we are, I think, third behind Australia. Sorry, behind India and Israel, if I'm not wrong. But I'm sorry, US. So we are definitely behind Israel, USA, and Israel in terms of startup. But I think that has nothing to do with our Indian capability, because most of the startups in US are either employing Indians or are being founded by Indians. So I don't think we should get into this feeling that we are third. No, I think obviously we have a lot to catch up in terms of manufacturing with China. We have a lot to catch up in terms of technology with Israel. We have a lot to catch up in terms of overall GDP with US. I agree with that. But I don't think that should be a factor for us to discourage, because there's a lot of opportunity. Believe me, as the interaction they were telling, that I work with one of the companies who is in West Africa. I work with some companies in UK. There is opportunity in every country to start. You don't have to be in USA to see. The advantage you get by being in Israel or being in USA or being in China is China has got 5G. So that's how they were able to control, and they were able to, sitting in Beijing, they were able to see what is going on in Corona in Wuhan, right? They were able to see because they have 5G. India do not have 5G. So that advantage China has. Similarly, Israel have got very good security technology, defense technology. They've developed their own aircraft. They've developed their own cryptos and all that. US has got a very good standard. That shouldn't discourage it. But the advantage there is you have good labs. Let's accept. I don't want to discourage Indian labs. Definitely, American universities have got better labs than Indian universities. Israeli universities have got better. But believe me, today, one of the world's leading companies, most of them are from, if you look at the top 10 companies or top technology companies, most of them are led by Indians, one way or the other, who have come from Indian colleges. One studied from IIT Delhi, one studied from Manipal Institute of Technology. So you might say, no, IIT, okay, let's rule out IIT. But Satya Nadella came from Manipal. And I'm sure Manipal is nowhere near to IIT or NIT. It's on the third level. Even today, I wouldn't agree if somebody tells Manipal is a number 2 level. No, it's a third level. So, we Indians have the capacity, competency, and capability. Just matter of where you're able to take it. See, if you're in US, you will be able to take advantage very fast. In India, it will take slightly longer time to establish. But then there is a market for startup in India as well as in US. Now you have to decide whether you want to be a Desh Premi and stay back in India and do it, or you want to go into USA and do it fast. See, at the end of the day, you have to decide where you want to make a difference. You want to create value in America, or you want to create value in India. And believe me, there are so many startups adding value in India. Maybe one day we will exceed US or China. I don't know when that will happen. But as of now, I see a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of engineers, a lot of management graduates hopping onto the entrepreneur bandwagon. So, we should, sincerely, I don't think we should be worried whether India is at number 3 or number 4 or number 5. It's important. That's for Modi ji, that's for Mukesh Ambani to figure out where India should go, right? They are the people who are leading it. We in our place, we should see how we can add value to ourselves, to our society, or if some of us want to go abroad, add value to the America, fine, it's okay. At the end of the day, if you're getting satisfaction by coming out of MIT, I mean, after doing MNREC, do a post-graduation in MIT or Harvard, and then working for US, at the end of the day, whatever you do in US, it also impacts India, right? Because the technology from US comes in India. So India gets benefited one way or the other. So you want to benefit India directly by being in India, or you want to benefit India by sitting in US, is a call that you have to take. Next.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, I have one question. Shashikant sir,
Yeah.
V.S. Tripathi here.
Yeah.
What is the role of mentorship in this entrepreneurship?
Okay. Now, see, mentorship is very important because a person coming out from a management college, or a person coming out from NIT Allahabad, or a person coming out from IIT Delhi, there can be difference in their thinking, there can be difference in their level of technical ability, there can be difference in their approach. But at the end of the day, not everybody is as knowledgeable as somebody who has worked for 10, 20, 30 years. Right? Now, if you were to call me and say, Shashikant, can I hire this person as a co-founder for my company? I can speak to him for half an hour, 1 hour, and then give you my inputs. But if you don't have the recruitment experience, you won't be able to understand whether that person can be your co-founder. I have known people who take their best friends into a company and then fail, because that best friend can be your best friend. It cannot be a co-founder for your startup. Similarly, a startup co-founder cannot be your best friend. He's a professional connect, right? Yeah, but there are exceptions. A best friend can also be a co-founder. So you must know how to judge. So why do you need a mentor? You need a mentor to judge, to take decisions, to gain from his experience as to how he would have handled if this situation comes. For example, you are faced with a situation for which you don't have an answer. That's why you go to a mentor. So mentor will guide you, tell you, okay, if you have this situation, then these are the possible answers. Then he will help you to select. Final decision will be yours, but he will tell you what are the possible consequences and what are the possible solutions. So a mentor's prime role is giving you a, so if you ask me, very in a traditional Hindu way, mentor is like Lord Krishna in Mahabharata to Arjuna. So Arjuna is the entrepreneur of a startup. Lord Krishna is the mentor of the startup. That's how I would like to, play the role of a
Sir,
mentor.
definitely. That is a correct analogy. But question is where to find such Lord Krishna, where to find mentor. Actually, because I'm interested in starting something. One of our students wants to do something, and where he can get his mentor. Means, is there any group of mentors or some non-government organization sort of thing? Or is there any, because we don't say that everything government will do, MSME and all that, departments will do something, or guidance will be provided by Department of Industry or so. Is there any some sort of...
So my suggestion will be, what you should do is, sorry, I'm not aware about the NIT background, but what you should do is, you should have an entrepreneurship or an incubation center in your college. Okay. So first step is to bring an entrepreneurship cell and an incubation center. Now, this both can be same or can be different. Now, I'll tell you how it can be different. Entrepreneurship is where you are promoting your college students to become future businessmen, future startups, etc. Okay. Incubation center is where you are seeding in an idea within the college, and then you're supporting that particular venture to grow to the next startup. So as in an incubation center, you might bring in somebody from BITS Pilani. You might bring in some guy from Allahabad, somebody staying in Allahabad. He might like to use your incubation center to start a startup. He may not be a product of RSC Allahabad, right? So my suggestion is, start an entrepreneurship cell and start an incubation center. Moment you start these two, you can invite people in and out. See, for example, I am based in Ghaziabad. It may not be possible for me to come every week to Allahabad, right? So what you should do is have touch base with technology companies in and around Allahabad, where people are working at senior levels, at VP level, at a CEO level, or people who have started their own business. They can come and guide you, or people like me who can probably come once in a quarter, or this thing again depending on the availability. So you need a cell where people can come and address your students, your entrepreneurs, and that's how you can get mentors. So, but if you ask me very frankly, the best mentors are those mentors who are locally present or who are remote if they are able to come onto a Skype. For example, I can be a mentor to somebody as long as they're open for a Skype or a Zoom call or a Google Hangout, right? So if they're open for a video conferencing, I can be a mentor. But if you feel that the person has to come, sit with your entrepreneur, see the product, then you have to look at somebody who can be available at your college in short notice. Someone in and around Allahabad, some businessmen, some corporate people working for. I'm not sure Allahabad what kind of corporate industries are there. I'm not tracked as of now, right? I know about 90 industrial estate, etc. But that's the only way out. So one is have a remote mentor, the other is have a local mentor. So these are the two ways in which. Okay, but for you to attract mentors to your setup, you need to have a defined entrepreneurship cell or an incubation center.
Right. Very correct. Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
Vivek, do we have any more questions?
No, sir. No. Sir, can we conclude?
Yeah,
this
please.
event?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Piyush?
If you don't have any questions.
Hello. Thank you, sir. Good evening to all of you. It's a time for vote of thanks. It is my privilege to get an opportunity to extend the vote of thanks. On behalf of I convey my extreme thankfulness to our Honorable Director, Professor Rajesh Tripathi, who had given his consent to organize this webinar. Further, I convey my deep regards and hearty thanks to Mr. Sasikant R. Sir, who despite his very busy schedule, accepted our invitation as a speaker. We are highly motivated by his gracious presence and inspiring address. I now express my sincere thanks to Dr. Mayank Pandey for his constant support and convenience for conduct of the webinar. Advisor of MPT and APS Society, also convener of this event for his direction, guidance, and providing stimulating environment for organizing the webinar. I now thank all the participants for their patience and cooperation who joined this webinar from different regions of the country. IEEE is a professional society for you and by you. It is your support that keeps us motivated and energized. Moreover, my sincere thanks to IEEE MNNIT student branch and Cisco WebEx Mate for providing BF platform. A special thanks is due to volunteer Dr. Nandu Kishore sir, Vikrant Varsane, Prateek Raj, Saurabh Raj, Diksha, Aditya Pal, Kumar Mohit, and Vivek Raj. These volunteers work very hard to make this event a success. Last but not the least, we thank the Almighty God for enlightening the path of wisdom path. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Piyush, one thanks is due to Dr. Shashwat Pathak sir, who has supported us to organize this webinar. So Shashwat Pathak sir, if you are here.
Wait.
Sir? Sir.
I'm always with
Yes,
the
sir.
department, so I think there is no need of any special thanks. I'm always with the department.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to all of you, and I'm sure at least some inputs have been helpful to most. And some of the people, I hope some entrepreneurs will come out from this NIT.
Definitely. Thank you.
So now I would like to invite all participants. Please turn on your cameras. We will take a screenshot of this. So please turn on your camera. Please all participants turn on your cameras.
So how many participants we have totally?
I think 30, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So, thank you, Shashikant sir. I have noted down some of your suggestions, that networking with the alumni. Core is networking. Networking local and remote networks. And I will try to do some special activities in this dimension.
Sir, there is one announcement regarding the IEEE Day PPT competition. Sir, we are going to announce its result today. Yes, sir. Sir, we are going to announce